the Biofriendly Podcast. It's the Biofriendly Podcast.
Well, that's the funny thing nowadays with young people is that, we've spoken, and Noel and I communicate in movie quotes as well, and so do all of our peers, as you do. But the thing is now my movie references, when you talk to younger people, it's all of them are missing it, and all of that. And
even from Ghostbusters, even good ones.
Yeah. It's hard to it's hard to not get frustrated because these 20-somethings look at you like, well, what, man? That came out before I was born, and you get mad because you quote the Goonies, Ghostbusters, Ferris Bueller, Back to the Future, all these classic life-forming films, and they're like, I'm sorry,
weird science.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I blame the parents.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. Because I have younger guys that work on my team, and they'll use a quote, and then and then I stop, and I'll explain that to you guys later, and then I go back, and they're film guys, so they get most of them, but I don't know if the older ones. There's an occasional one like they haven't seen, and it just blows my mind. It's like Ferris Bueller. That's one of those ones that you would just think people would see, and then they just don't or haven't. So.
But on the flip side. That's probably a good opportunity. I feel a little bit jealous because these kids now have a chance to find out that, there's something awesome.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like Ferris Bueller holds up. That movie's amazing.
Yep. It does. It absolutely holds up.
Yeah, I have a 14-year-old daughter, and we've made her watch some of those. I've made her watch some of the older ones.
See, good parenting.
See, so you're doing it right. You're doing it right.
We also live down the street from Ferris's house.
Really?
So it's 9 houses this way.
Really?
Are you telling me it's not actually in Chicago?
It's not in the Chicago suburbs.
Wow, believe it. Movie magic.
That's a
This is the first I'm ever hearing of this.
No, and it was funny. They did like a reshoot for Domino's Pizza or whatever, and they took over the street again to shoot in that house and over people's backyards.
I think I remember that commercial.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. So anyway,
that's awesome.
we had to make her watch it. Oh, and also Donnie Darko. Have you ever seen the movie Donnie Darko?
Yes.
I have. Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal.
That's shot about 95% in our neighborhood, except for some of the interiors. Yeah. So anyway, I'm actually one of my projects that I'm working on over the quarantine is to recreate a few scenes from the movie using still images in the exact locations that they were shot in the movie. So.
Well, that's a fun project.
Awesome. It's kind of fun to do that, right? To run around town. Like I just took my kids by the Father of the Bride house.
Yeah,
perfect.
A couple weeks ago, right? It's like they're all around here. Like we went by the Beverly Hills 90210 place. Just like
these iconic houses.
Yeah, the Takanami Center from
yes,
to Die Hard.
Yeah.
My friend from Sweden was like, "Dude, you gotta take me," and I'm like, "Okay, we drove by one."
Yeah, I know. I've driven by that for years. I've driven by the Nakatomi Plaza for years. I remember. Yeah, I drove by it, and somebody said it to me. And it didn't dawn on me. I mean, it's a Fox building, right? It's a Fox. Yeah. But these iconic places. There's somewhere in Pasadena now this is an obscure film, but we have kids, so maybe. But the Zathura House. Did you guys ever see the Zathura House?
No,
that's like in
that?
Pasadena. That's that film that's kind of like a Diet Jumanji, I guess you could say, or Space Jumanji. It's this movie where this house gets blasted into space.
I remember they're opening up the doors. I've seen
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure because I drove by a house in Pasadena and I was like, that's the Zathura house. I'm pretty sure.
That's a very Pasadena sort of house. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. Anyway, well, we should. I mean, look. I think
so. That was your prologue, ladies and gentlemen. That was the prologue of the Biofriendly podcast.
Exactly. I was going to say, if anything, Tobin matches this show to a T because before we could introduce him or dive into a topic, we were already on movie references, and it was the best tangent beginning I think we've had in the history of the show.
All right, let's get this started. I'm ready to go. I'm having a little water.
Get this started. Have your sip. I have my coffee. Noel has his water, and we here are on another episode. Here, let's toast, right? The Biofriendly Podcast. Welcome to the Biofriendly Podcast. I'm your co-pilot, Jacob.
And I'm Noel.
You're my other co-pilot.
I'm also a co-pilot. Otherwise, the plane would crash.
And today, we welcome our guest, Tobin Kirk from Faraday Future. Welcome,
Hello,
Tobin.
everybody. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've actually listened to a few of your blogs, and it's quite an eclectic group of people, so I'm happy to be a part of that.
Yes. Yeah, we've had our fair share of guests that's all sorts of topics since we started having guests on the show.
Well, we try to we've expanded the show a lot over the last year or so, because it was very much just about environmentalism at first, and then we started to, as we got more into this business and more into what we're doing as a company, Biofriendly, we learned more about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and then we became part of that and signed on to that, and then we kind of realized sort of the broader topic of sustainability and how you can have you can talk about a lot more things. There's a lot more you can get into that is bio-friendly, and so it's sort of expanded our show. It has made better guests, hasn't it? More interesting folks. But it's nice to like you, Tobin.
Absolutely.
Perfect example.
Well, for our audience, would you give them a quick rundown? Because for me, Faraday Future was a new thing. I had never heard of it before, and so I think for the audience who isn't familiar with your company and what you guys are up to, could you give us a quick synopsis of what it is?
Sure. So Faraday Future is one of many startup electric car companies that kind of trying to reinvent the future of mobility, and not just vehicles, but the operating systems that go along with it, and and new ways of looking at electric vehicles. So the company originally had started, YT, who's our founder of the company, lived in Beijing, China, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but the smog problem is really bad.
Pretty horrendous.
So what he was trying to do is create a vehicle that would help, help change the environment. And so what he helped develop, along with a bunch of, he actually went and handpicked and found various engineers and designers from other companies, from other OEMs, from Tesla, and from all these different tech communities, and put together this vehicle called the FF91. And it's a pretty impressive vehicle. One of the things that it does that in China, because of this smog problem, one of the things that they've tried to do is they've limited the amount of days you can drive a car.
Right.
So the more I'm trying to figure out a polite way of saying this. The more high wealth individuals in China will just hire a driver to drive around. So you're only supposed to drive your car 4 days, 3 days a week. Well, they'll just hire a driver.
So they'll have the Tuesday drivers and the Wednesday driver, and then they'll just go back and forth.
Exactly.
A loophole.
Exactly. Yeah, a loophole. So I think one of the things that YT was doing is trying to create a car that was not only had zero emissions, but also had an area in the back where people could work if necessary. So we have a large widescreen monitor in the back of the car, full connectivity, so you can do work or video games or take a nap. The one thing that I do like is we have a thing called spa mode in the back of the car, and the back seat actually leans almost all the way back. We call it zero gravity. Leans all the way back, and you could certain lights go on, very calming, and a video plays on the big monitor, and it's just nice and quiet. So I think he's looking for a way that, one, there's no zero emissions, but also kind of this super high-end luxury car.
Yes.
That people can be, and not necessarily chauffeured. I mean, it's also a high-performance car, so it's got the best of both worlds. So anyway, that's where I work. So we've been producing this car. I've got a bunch of them, and they're really nice. Yeah. And so my job is I work in the marketing department, particularly creating videos and video content for our social media, for investor proposals, and anything else that we need at Faraday Future. So
is there a lot of excitement about the electric industry? Like, are you finding that when you have to reach out to investors and people that there's still people who are interested in getting into that, or is it growing? Is it getting harder? Is it getting easier? Is it like, how's the...
that's a good question. Because I don't work, we have a capital team that reaches out and deals with investors, so I'm not that familiar with it. But I do think that there is I think that people see that this is where the industry is heading. Yeah. I think, gas vehicles are on their way out. And I think that people need to figure out ways of, putting their money into companies that are going to be around more than just 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Well, that's very cool. Oh, sorry. Go on. I was excited about the car seats because what I was excited about is that when I started looking you guys up, before you come on the show, you start to research, and the first thing I saw is like, oh man, I hope we get to talk about these car seats because we all have, as we opened our conversation on Back to the Future and classic '80s films. We have this vision of what the car of tomorrow will be, right? We have this vision, this idea. Well, first we were promised jetpacks, and we don't have those yet.
Well, and the cars at least are supposed to fly.
Yeah, the cars are supposed to fly.
Right.
But if they're getting close, though, getting close with the flying car.
Thank goodness, because there's so many things that we were going to have, and we have yet to have a lot of them. But when you look at this car, it really does look like something out of a science fiction film because it is like a spaceship. It's got so much stuff. I saw the seats, the zero gravity seats that lay back. I thought, what an enjoyable ride that would be. Right. And the lighting, it's like when you ride in a really great Virgin airplane. When you go on those flights that you're like, hey, this is next level. Yeah. So what I was excited about is that on this show, we're starting to dig in more and more into the electric car industry, and everybody knows Tesla. That's the one that has changed the tide to it being cool to own an electric car, right? And so now you've got these other companies, Faraday, emerging that are going to be competing with Tesla, but also giving the luxury car market kind of this electric vehicle, which we have yet to see something that's in that arena yet. So that's, And
I think for so long, electric cars were very utilitarian and had, almost designs that I felt like, especially like when the first Prius came out, they were trying to make it futuristic, and it didn't look futuristic at all. It looked like a bad 80s movie of what they thought the engine would look like. And so I think people are now like, well, if I'm going to spend money on an electric car, I want something that's really nice, not only the engine and with zero emissions, but also something that looks really nice too. And I've been driving electric cars for quite some time. I used to work in Santa Monica, and the trek up there was just, it got worse and worse every year. So I would drive. I first had a Prius, and then I moved to the Leaf, the Nissan Leaf. Yep. And now I'm back to the Prius, but I think, and we were talking a little bit about this yesterday, but this era of the hybrid, I think has got to go. And Elon Musk has talked about this. It's like, it doesn't make sense to have an electric engine and a gas engine in a car. It's too heavy, and it also defeats the purpose of having an electric car. So things are going to start. It's going to happen slowly, but I think that electric gas-powered cars are eventually going to get phased out. And then one of the other things that I think is important too is how electric cars and electrifying existing vehicles. So trash trucks, a lot of the vehicles that they use at the docks, that to push stuff around. And so anyway, I think there's it's not just the consumer model. There's a lot of other vehicles that need to be electrified as well, and the ability to take those existing vehicles, buses and whatnot, and then redo them so they have an electric engine. I feel like there's a lot to be done there too.
Yeah.
The biggest, I think we found on this show, and we've talked about this a bit, and perhaps you have some insight. The biggest issue I think that electric cars are sort of having is the availability of refueling, if you will, and we've talked to a couple different companies that work on that are working on solving that problem and getting to it. But it feels like that's going to be the thing that I think finally pushes it over, because the auto manufacturers have bought in. I mean, everybody's going to have an electric car by 2025.
Yeah,
right.
But do you with your vehicles and with kind of your research and what you found, have you seen any issues with recharging and with getting them so that you don't have to worry about where you are. You can always fill up, right?
I think that was an issue at first, and I can only speak from my personal experience. I remember I would drive up to Santa Monica and forget to charge my car at work, and then have to go to the mall and charge it and buy a $50 pair of pants just to charge my vehicle. It was
right.
It's not cost effective, but I think as more and more electric cars come to the market, I think you're going to see more charging stations, and I think also too kind of a more of a universal charging station. I think Tesla has its own charging port, which I think is. I don't think that's helpful. I think that it's helpful for selling Teslas, but I don't think it's helpful for the overall electric market. Right. So, but the Faraday Future, for instance, can charge at a number of different charging places. So
yeah.
So right. I think as more of those pop up, I don't think that's going to be a problem. People have them at their houses, and then obviously for more industrial uses, they're going to have bigger chargers put in at places of business. But I don't think that's a problem either. I think it's just a matter of, it's just that there is going to be a transitional time where it becomes less and less. There's less barrier to entry.
Right.
Yeah, that the whole Tesla having their chargers just for them. That's kind of a tipping of to Apple of like, we're going to do our own thing over here, right? We're going to leave a closed system that nobody else can have. But the electric market is probably going to open up much like PC and Windows and become this. You can use this anywhere. These services are available anywhere, and we'll see that transition probably very, very quickly over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and there's already some adapters too that
that's true.
That people can use to get around it a little bit. Yeah,
exactly.
It's hilarious because they're like phones. I mean, literally they are. They're just gigantic telephones with wheels.
Yeah. And that's a big part, if I'm not mistaken, and you can elaborate on that. But a big message behind Faraday is the devices, the fact that it's a place for media, and right? Isn't that one of the things that's kind of pushed for that?
So the car has, I think, 11 monitors in it.
That's crazy.
So I know, it's ridiculous. So,
that's amazing.
So there's an there's obviously the CID for the driver, but then there's a monitor up front for the passenger. There's one in the back. All of the touch screens on the sides for seat adjustment and air conditioning and whatnot. So it's and that's where we a lot of the time don't refer to Faraday Future as a car company because it's more of a tech company. Mostly with all the technology on the inside of the car. So not only does it have the amazing battery and propulsion system, it has this interior system that is just, it is pretty fascinating, and it's really cool. As a non-car dude, I think when you first see the car and you see the interior, kind of like you were saying, it is such a space-aged.
It really is.
Space age, and you're just like, wow, and then there's all these buttons, and it's just like, even the doors don't have the handles.
Right.
You just push this little button and they kind of open up very
exactly.
elegantly, so it's the best of both worlds,
Yeah, and that's the wild thing about cars now is that it's like when we converted the recording industry from analog to digital. Everything was on tape, and then it was digital. And at first, the growing pains and the adjustment was difficult and hard. But the ability to take things even further now is there. And that's, like you said, with Faraday Future being a tech company on wheels. Essentially, it's like bringing all this, digital technology and putting it on top of a machine. It is
exactly it.
Yeah, it's very, very impressive. I just totally lost what I was. That was one of those things where, as I was speaking, I could feel my question drifting further and further away from my brain. I was like, "What was I going to say?"
Have fun over there.
So I'm going to pass things over.
I'm glad I'm not the only one then.
Yeah, it happens to us constantly. Actually, it's
all the time,
more and more. And unfortunately, the older we get, the worse it's going to get.
Oh man,
the more things we're going to forget.
We're only going to speak in movie quotes. Is what's going to happen. Exactly. Is we're going to be older, and people are going to be like, "What were you saying?" And you're going to be like, "Goonies never die." That's what I was saying.
That's all I was going to say. No, there's a couple questions I had. One is I like the name because Michael Faraday is a pretty cool was a pretty cool dude. Does your company try to embrace that sort of like figure it out on your own without? Because Michael Faraday is kind of famous for not being, not being a classically trained scientist, right? Like he got some schooling, but that wasn't really his.
That's right.
His bag, right?
That's his thing. Yeah. And I think we have very much of that attitude. We also have it's a very tech oriented company. Yeah. So it's not that there's no no's, but it's like okay, well, if no is the answer, let's figure it out. Let's be super agile and try to work that out. And that kind of permeates throughout the entire company.
Yeah.
But that's cool. So there is that kind of like that gutty, gritty, we can figure this out. We can learn this. We can understand. We can do this.
Yeah.
Right. And then just the restrictions of conventional thinking sort of aren't. The idea is to not have those encumber you from coming up with something. I'm guessing.
Exactly.
Yeah?
And technically, we are a startup company, so we also have to have that kind of startup mentality and really just trying to figure things out on the fly, and and we're also doing stuff that's never been done before, so there's no roadmap that we have to follow.
Yeah.
We have it planned out as well as we can, but things come up and we just have to react as quickly as possible.
Sure.
In spa mode, will there ever be
back to spa mode?
Back to spa mode.
Will there ever be a robot spa assistant who massages your does
would be nice.
that eyebrow massage? Remember that Ayani used to do?
Yes, there has to be like robotic hands that come out of the back seat and just
And
rub
do
your,
that sort of
rub
about
your temples.
temples and right before. It's just one of the most. And one of our good friends, Derek, who we worked with for years, his wife, she owns a spa. And so when they were getting married, we all had a spa day. So like all of the so we got to sit in there, and she gave us the spa treatment. And I remembered, I was like, I had no idea that having someone massage like your face
feels so
would
amazing.
be so great.
I know, right?
So I'm just wondering if such a feature, because I might buy one if
I can talk to the engineers, see what they can do.
Please, if there's a comment box for Faraday Future, we'd really like a face massage built in.
Yeah.
No, I think that what's interesting, and I wanted to get into this a little bit, which is, Tobin and I got a chance to speak yesterday on the phone, and we were talking about the mindset of people, and our audience is also learning so much as we are as well, shifting to electric vehicles, because there's a lot of traditional ideas about what we think a car should be and where we're heading, and there's a changeover happening. And like we've joked about before, the electric car used to be silly. It used to be something that
a golf cart.
It was a golf cart. It was something you'd see Yogi Bear drive. You know what I mean? It just looked like, it was like, what is this cartoonish vehicle that I could never be sexy in? And now the mindset is starting to shift. But you told me this story, and I wanted you to share it again about the sound of a motor. And would you share that real quick?
Yeah, of course. I think we were talking about this kind of evolving from the Ed Begley Jr. era of electric cars, and then people really trying to there's been this classic love affair with an America with the car.
Yes.
And fast cars and loud cars and engine noises and such. And we were talking yesterday because my sister purchased a Tesla, and the one thing that she said is that she missed the sound of the engine.
Yeah.
And there's not a real answer for that other than you get over it. You have to evolve. But there are, we were saying this yesterday, there's a lot of companies that actually add or amplify the noise of their cars. So I know that, and I shouldn't say the name, but I think Porsche does it, and BMW has a car where they actually add additional sounds or take the existing sound of the car and amplify it.
That's awesome.
Through the speakers.
Through the speakers, so you get that noise of the car that people like so much. I mean, it's hard. One of my coworkers who runs our PR department, he has he works for an electric car company, but he drives this just horrendous Dodge Charger that you can hear him coming from a block away. Right. And so I think it's hard because people like that noise. They like that guttural, visceral like feeling, and I do think that people are going to have to kind of, like I said, get over it. They're going to have to understand that propulsion doesn't necessarily mean loud noise. I mean, our car is so fast. I've driven in it a few times with one of our drivers who's a little on the crazy side. And
Perfect.
It's
good.
Like it reminds me of, the only thing I can think of is Pony Express at Knott's Berry Farm.
Okay.
It's like a roller coaster. This thing takes off so fast, and your stomach just drops, and so it's faster than the Charger.
Yeah.
with the
Muscle cars, right?
Guttural, muscle car, but it's totally silent. So I think people are going to have to understand that loud doesn't necessarily mean fast. And
I think that's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, and I was just going to say, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, but with noise pollution being so bad as it is today, I feel like the more cars that we have that are silent, the better. I mean, I just think about the freeway noise that I can hear from my house.
Yeah.
And imagine that being cut in half or gone altogether, and all you hear is just tires rolling on the concrete. And it would just make the world a better place. You know, you're trying to put your
kids
son
to sleep. Yeah.
And you're like, oh, thank God they're finally asleep. You're backing out of the room. And then, your neighbor comes by. You have to start all over again.
It's so true.
So anyway, I hope
Although, I just thought about the flip side of that, though, because if you're walking your kids across the street, sometimes it's the sound of the a-hole in the distance that makes you stop, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
no,
it's not going to stop people from driving like idiots, I don't think.
No, that's true. On my Leaf, I actually remember pulling up this couple was talking in the middle of a driveway, and I just pulled up behind them. They didn't even see me or hear me.
Right.
So I was like, okay, what do you do? Do you honk? And they even talked about putting bells on electric cars at first so blind people wouldn't get hit or something. So I get it. Like you said, there's going to be this transition of, and we're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah,
it is
I think have you guys seen the film Ford versus Ferrari?
Yeah.
Have you seen it yet?
I haven't.
Oh, it's okay. It's
You
okay.
know,
But
it's a good one.
It's a really good.
Being a fellow cinephile, it's a good
it's
watch.
a great film. But what I was going to say is there's a scene, where they have Ford, Henry Ford's son or grandson, whatever it is.
Grandson,
yeah, and he's just such a tough person. But they put him in the car, and when they ride him around, drive him real fast on the track, and he just laughs and sobs in joy. And so I think that what has to happen is that when it comes to Americana and muscle cars, is that people have to experience how great it can be in the newer version in order to let go and move on, as we start to make transition. Because I too fall victim to the love of the sound of a roaring motor. And I said to my wife, I heard a car loud, and I was like, ooh, listen to that. And she was like, are you serious? That is so annoying. And I was like, I don't know what it is. It's just somewhere in my DNA to think that loud and powerful, but I think that
But there's a certain loud that's good, though.
Certain level.
When you hear weak engine cars that don't have a muffler, it's like that's not correct. That's the wrong sound, right? But when you hear a throaty, I think that's going back to movies. I think that there's going to be a time when people just don't remember, like they're not around, right? There's a problem. I mean, at some point, just because the momentum is so strong for electric cars, I agree. I think that they are going to take over. Yeah, and then people won't even.
So you're saying a generation of people have to die?
Yes, except there's going to be filmmakers. There's going to be filmmakers who read about it and who go and find like a classic car and ride one and go, God, that noise, and then they're going to that noise, that sound will be put in a film, and suddenly people will be like, oh. What is that? Like, this is awesome. And they'll remember how awesome it is.
You talk about movies. I mean, think about how much they'll take you watch a chase scene in a movie and they amplify the sound so much to give it that and I get it, and that makes it more exciting. But for me, there's something about that high pitched whine of a electric car zipping by that just feels like the future.
Yeah, it does. Sure, it does. Sure. I've heard. When I've never really experienced any of these high-speed electric vehicles myself. I've watched tons of videos of them creaming every high horsepower, engine-driven car. But that sound, that is like a laser beam. It is very it does kind of pierce through the air. And I think that will become commonplace. Like we've been joking, is that the generations will change. And it'll become the sound. It'll be the thing that everybody knows. And so it makes me wonder, will car makers of the future take that sound to the next level in the car and find a way that you can buy an electric vehicle that makes that, whatever inside the car?
I think they probably will.
They probably will, because there'll be people that be like, that are I'm fine as long as I feel like it's happening, as long as I feel like I hear the noise.
It would be great if it was inside the car.
Inside the car,
said,
so
but then outside
exactly,
the,
so
totally
it's
quiet.
silent out there, and then but a great skit would be to do a 2030 action movie scene and have the car chase with the intense music, and there's no sound.
Yeah. I love it.
Wouldn't that be so good? These guys
I can get my team working on that right now.
Please,
they could bust that out.
That'd be hilarious.
But I do think also too, the other thing that you have to attract too are, as you make cooler cars.
Yeah.
For instance, Rivian is another electric car company. Yeah. They've got the truck, and Bollinger has a truck as well. And so I think as there's more cars that are more attractive than for people to buy, not just sedans and high-end cars like that are. So I think that'll make people question the need for the the really loud engine.
Sure.
But it is hard because there's a generation of guys that have they take like a Hyundai or whatever and they put pipes on it and they get it really loud and performance are like drifter cars, and I don't quite understand that culture.
Yeah.
But it is definitely something that people like, and so I don't know how they're going to exist in the world at the same time. Yeah. I guess that's that transition that we're talking about.
Well, I feel like we're all existing in the world at the same time just fine now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's no tension. Everybody's getting along swimmingly these days.
I don't see why there would be a problem.
Yeah, everybody's
in the future.
Everybody's rational on their social media posts, and everybody's just sweet and understanding and listening.
We are a tolerant species.
Tolerant species.
That's one thing I've noticed about us.
No, I think that what'll be interesting is to the guys who do the whale tails and the spoilers and all that stuff, we're going to have total car hackers. Like that's such a 90s word for me to use, a hacker. but that's going to be the thing. There's going to be somebody who knows how to get into the computerized system. And I know you don't stand behind this idea at all, because that would completely violate the warranty of the car. But there's going to be people that are going to be able to hack into it and make their car do all sorts of crazy things like a computer. You're going to be able to drive this thing, and it's like, oh yeah, well, I've unlocked my Faraday Future car, and now it plays a Ferris Bueller's Day Off on the hood.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I would hack mine to
you go on eBay and you buy like a little, like a black market card that you put in.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
May or may not work.
Yeah, no, your ability, your knowledge with programming becomes all the more valuable because you can just turn your car, mess with your car. Right. Yeah, I would want the Willy Wonka bubble car.
Yeah, that's what you want. That's a great idea.
That's the noise that I want when I'm driving along. I want to go pop, pop, pop.
But that's the good thing about computerized cars is there will be a day that there's an app store for the Faraday Future car, and you can say, I want this sound. I want the Willy Wonka sound for my car. I guarantee it. That's coming.
And then it'll go along, and it'll get more and more bubbles the faster I go.
Yeah, our cars.
Except I want that out. I want the speakers on the outside. I want the people on the outside to hear.
You have to hack for that.
You want actual bubbles.
I want them to add bubbles.
Yeah, of course.
Look, my belief is that
I'm sorry, but could you imagine you're going 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds and it sounds like bubbles? I mean, that's my favorite.
That's a trail of bubbles.
That's the future I want to live in. But that once cars are customizable like that, we're going to go through a MySpace page period of cars where they're hideous, where people literally have, audio files playing and obnoxious colors and lights. I know what love is. And then everybody's gonna be like, all right, we had our fun for a couple years. Let's everybody just get back to normal cars again.
One thing I was going to say, sorry. So one of the cool things is the Faraday Future, the FF91 actually has lights on the outside of the car. And so you talk about, right now they look very cool, but if somebody is able to hack into them, they're going to do something silly.
For sure.
And,
right.
Yeah.
Well, who knows what it'll look like? That's so true.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. We're gonna have an ugly period. That's for sure. There's gonna be people that take it too far, because once you give people a little bit of customizing power, it always the pendulum has to go way over there until we come back and we go like, all right.
This is the power of free speech and free expression.
That's true.
I believe that the ability to have something amazing is worth looking at something totally disgusting.
Like a bubble Willy Wonka
Like a
car.
bubble Willy Wonka car.
Full circle. We're pretty much nearing the end of the show, so I wanted to give you a chance to kind of talk to us a little bit about the marketing of the car and what your job is for the U.S. And how that differs. I know there's a Chinese part of the company, and then there's also the U.S. And so you probably have a very specific way of communicating electric vehicles, luxury vehicles, and whatnot in the United States. Would you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think the car is a very expensive car. It's in the, I don't know if exactly the price hasn't been fully determined, but it's in the $200,000 range for a car.
So you're sending us one, right? We get one just for having you on the show, right? We get a complimentary.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
well, great. Please continue.
That's normal.
Yeah.
So it is, but it's this super high-end luxury car, and so we have to figure out a way to market the car to people that can afford it and people that want it. Sorry, guys.
Right.
People who are buying Lamborghinis.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Ferraris and,
Not necessarily in
And-
our price bracket.
Yeah,
Well,
so
speak for
people that are
yourself.
looking for. Sorry, what was that?
He said, "Speak for yourself."
I'll just sell off a couple stocks and pick up a.
Yeah, right. Pick up a couple.
Yeah.
So it is not a challenge, but we definitely know that we're talking to people that can afford that are maybe in that high end car market, but instead of wanting that traditional Ferrari or high end Bentley or something, they want to get an electric car and possibly even have a driver that can be driven around, but also at that same time want a performance vehicle. So we really have a challenging time trying to talk to those people in a way that it's not challenging. It's just we have to make sure that we keep all of our content on brand, and then that we're constantly reaching out to the right people.
Right.
And then at the same time, as we also look for more and more investors in the company, we have to talk to them as well. So it's been a fun, interesting challenge. And then on top of it, as you mentioned, we have a pretty big Chinese market as well.
Yeah.
So we have a team that we work with. So the content that works in the U.S. may not work in China, and so how do we rework that content or use different content to talk to the Chinese market versus talking to a U.S. market? Sure. So it's been a fun challenge and a good way to learn a lot about the Chinese culture and working with a primarily Chinese company, and helping learning about their way of communicating, but also helping our Chinese counterparts understand how to communicate to an American audience.
Sure.
So it's a fun challenge, and I've learned a lot. So it's good. I like
Good.
it.
Good. Good. Well, this has been awesome, and again, for our audience, you can check out Faraday Future. It's a sleek-looking car. It's pretty impressive, and I hope one day to be able to ride in the back in that and get my spa mode on.
Spa mode on with the face massage.
With a face massage. Yeah. So please, comment box from the Biofriendly podcast. See what we can do to add. Some. I want to wade my feet in bubbling hot water.
That's a hilarious.
More bubbles with you guys.
Yeah, I know. We're very bubbly guys.
We
I
like
guess you could
cleanliness.
Say. We like cleanliness and bubbles and Willy Wonka.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, well, thank you so much for joining us on the Biofriendly podcast. We loved having you, Tobin.
It's super fun. I'm ready now for our second one where we only talk about 80s movies.
Oh yeah. That's our alternate podcast, the Bubble podcast.
That's it.
The Bubble Friendly podcast. We talk about bubbles and movies.
Yes, Cinebubbles.
But yeah, we do a little sign off here on the end of the show, so you're welcome to hang up, or you can sit here and watch us try to painfully get through it. It's the choice.
We always forget because we change it every year.
We do tags at the end of every
show.
I'm
ready. Let's
okay.
see.
Okay. So this has been the Biofriendly podcast, your beacon of light in a gloomy environment.
Not just charismatic megafauna.
More than just parasympathetic nerve activity. No, greater parasympathetic nerve featuring greater parasympathetic nerve activity.
Nature's perfect. Look at eggs.
Dolphins don't quit.
and y'all inclusive.
Y'all inclusive. Hey, besides my flub, which I never get that one right, we almost got through them pretty well. So that's been
we every time something that sticks out in our mind is said in one of the podcasts, we add it to our tag, and then by the end of the year, when we get to December, we have 30 in a row. And we'd see if we can keep remembering them and saying them. Yeah. And then we erase all of them except for our actual tag, which is you're a beacon of light in a gloomy environment. That's our tag, and then we start over. Then we start over every year, and then we add new tags in, so it makes it even harder. Right. Yes, it's always.
I hope I make something I said made that tag.
Oh yeah, I think there's going to be something that spa mode. It's got to go back to spa mode. Always in spa mode. Could we say something like that? Like your spa mode. There's something there.
We'll see if there's. We'll see.
It could be something
there. Tune in next time.
Tune in next time to see what we come up with. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on the Biofriendly Podcast.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
It's the Biofriendly Podcast. It's the Biofriendly Podcast.